Welcome to Legend Makers, the podcast where education's true heroes take center stage.
Shine like a ray from the sun. There's something people look for but never can find.
Here we are. I am with none other than Naomi Meredith. I am so happy. I've been dying to talk to you. I know we've been chatting now. I just hit the record button because we probably had really great content behind the scenes that really should be on the scenes. So it is a pleasure to meet you. Tell me, I mean, I've got your bio, but I got to tell you, I think your bio doesn't do you justice because you're super interesting. And I want to tell me your story about you were a teacher and then you transitioned into what I'm going to call an entrepreneur, but you're also a coach and an inspiration, I think, to a lot of people. So,
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always fun being interviewed because I have a couple podcasts as well. So it's always fun. But yeah, I'm Naomi Meredith and I am a former classroom teacher of 11 years. And the last 5 were in K through 5 STEM. So I built a program. I had limited supplies, 0 curriculum, and walked into that role. I didn't know any of the students, any of the teachers, brand new to that school, and built a whole program in K through 5 STEM. And I really found my passion for that. I eventually got a master's in STEM leadership because I found this is what I love. I love being creative. It just really clicked with me. I love reaching kids in this way. And so at the same time, I've always had a teacher business, but it really transformed into elementary STEM. And so through my time in the classroom, I also started a podcast, The Elementary STEM Coach, wrote my whole curriculum, which also created it in a way that teachers also use in their own classrooms as well, because many teachers in that role were like me, and it's still like this, where they walk into this space and the principal's like, be innovative. You're like, okay, well, what does that mean? So created my own curriculum that way. And lots of different speaking things and everything. And so I got to this point in the classroom where I was very torn, where I love the teaching side, but I also love the entrepreneurial side as well. And it's a lot of time. Like when you're very passionate about something, you want to put all your time and energy in it. And I was like that in both realms. So I took a chance on myself. I'm like, teaching's always there, but I didn't want to give up teaching, just be teaching in a different way. So I left the traditional classroom at the end of the 2023 school year and pursued my own business full time and also collaborations with other companies, with social media, curriculum writing, all sorts of different roles. And then more recently, on top of this, I have started my own after-school business where I am teaching students in the community. Currently, we're doing makerspace projects, but it can definitely grow. It's called STEM Explorers Club, so it's very
STEM Explorers.
open. So I've started teaching in the community, and that's been really exciting. And I have talked about this on my podcast, so I can say it now. I had an episode come out, but I actually purchased a trailer that I can actually pull with my car. And that's a whole thing where it's actually renovated where I can use it as a mobile classroom. So
I saw it on your Instagram and TikTok account. I have it here to ask you about your STEM trailer.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Fun.
So you're in the Colorado area.
I am. Yeah. I'm in Colorado. Kind of near Denver, like 30 minutes from the city.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty easy to get around in Colorado if you've ever been out here, but that's kind of a snapshot of what I do, like you said. So if any of you are asking, how did you get into that? I'm happy to talk a lot about it, but I'm a busy lady.
You are busy. I mean, listen, I can tell you right now, I do content not on the scale that you do. My dog went viral over the summer. And it was insane. He got like 9.7 million views. And I gained like 24,000 followers on that channel in a week. It was my own personal channel. And I was like, oh yeah, this is insane. I'm going to do this. And it was wild. And I was like trying to do the content creation. And yours is very well done. So for those of you, you're going to follow, I'm going to link to everything in the show notes. I'm going to have this on YouTube and on all the different platforms like Spotify and Amazon and all that. But you guys have to watch her content because your content's really well done.
Thank you.
And I know just from somebody who's done it, how time consuming it is to do it the way that you do it.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of what I thought, because see, it's really funny as the viewer. tell me, this is what I
Yeah.
was thinking when I was watching some of your
Okay.
content.
Okay.
Like, so you
Tell
went into
yeah.
this classroom and you were like, first, I'm subbing today.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
and
did.
so the greatest thing is though, is like, okay, as a viewer, the average viewer, I don't know if people think about this, and I don't want to break your fourth wall for you because people just go back to watch. But like when you come through the door, like who's filming that? Like
Oh, true.
you had to put your camera somewhere and
I
like, now I'm
did.
going to walk through the door. And then you pull the Prometheus board over and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
now I got to pull the board over. And then you have to
Uh-huh.
get there and you have to edit all that. And then you have to do the
Yes.
music and you have to get the things just right.
Yep.
And now, oh, and when you're laying the paper like on the ground, I guess people don't realize it. Maybe they do subconsciously, but it looks so good and seamless.
Yeah.
But like, you're literally like,
I know.
right?
Like,
Like doing
yes.
this, yeah. And so anyway, your
Yeah.
content's excellent. I think your content's great. I love watching it. It's a lot of fun to
Good.
watch it. And I did see your STEM trailer. Very cool.
Yeah,
Tell
I think I put something in there. I was standing in there with my dog, which he did not like it.
Wait, is that the little dude with the Tootsie Roll? Did you do him?
Yes, my little boy. His name's
What's your little
Freddie.
boy's name?
Frederick.
Fred. I got Tucker. Go look up Team Tucker. He went viral. So
Oh,
imagine Frederick gets like 10
I
million views.
wish. I don't post on his account very often. When you run your own account, so I have
Oh, yeah.
my
Yep.
account, and then I have one for my club, and I also run a company social media account, and then I also create content for another
You're a
company.
very busy person.
Yeah, I'm busy. What's funny, I'm long-term subbing right now, so that's something new I've added for a K through 5 STEM teacher. And like the older kids, like I tell them, like, I don't just sub you guys. Like, I'm actually just helping out a friend. I know your teacher. And I like had some videos I needed to show them on my own YouTube. And
Yeah.
they're like, what? What is all this? They're like, you're a YouTuber? I'm like, I guess
See,
so.
that's where they all get jazzed, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa. And your
Yeah.
content's like legit. Like, so it's not
Yeah.
just like you're like, oh,
I guess.
your content looks legit, and it is.
Good.
And so they're seeing it. They're more impressed with that.
Oh, they are. They're like,
They're
who's
like, oh
this
my God,
sub? They're
because
like,
Meredith's
who's this
a
lady?
YouTuber.
Yeah,
She's
they do say that. And they're like, I looked you up. Like, and I have nothing
Yeah.
like inappropriate. Like, I tell them I have stuff for kids and
Yeah.
I'm going to be adding more, but it's mostly currently for teachers, but I kind of am merging my other business on there. I'm like, well, it's all STEM, but I'm like, you can
Yeah.
look me up. That's fine. You might learn how to teach STEM. You'll find out all my secrets.
Right. I don't know how entertaining you're really going to find it as a fifth grader, but okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'm
I
like,
think
you can't.
they're more enamored with the fact that you're actually like putting out content and
Yeah.
you are like in there, you're an influencer. Like
Yeah.
you're doing it. You're a YouTuber, you're an
"What?"
Instagrammer, right?
Yeah. Like,
How
yeah,
cool is
guys.
that?
They're like, our sub's cool. I'm like, I'm the coolest in
I
kid
love it.
world.
I love it. I totally love it. Yeah, guys, look up to me. Oh, so wait, so what? Tell me about this because we were
Mhm.
talking a little earlier. I told you, and people know that I was like a terrible kid. Right? I was a horrible kid. I was like your nightmare kid. They were like, oh, that Buell kid's coming in again. I'm always fascinated when I meet teachers. Like, I'm like, why? Like, what? Why did you start teaching?
I might be that classic teacher where I was in kindergarten and I always knew I was going to be a teacher. I knew
Really?
from day one. I was very fascinated by what school was and just like the systems and the processes. And I was always, my parents say this, you were always watching your teachers. And school is very easy for me. I was a good student, not like above and beyond, but I was a good
Are you
student.
one of those?
Yeah, like a teacher's pet, but I was like the
I'm just
kid.
playing with.
I wanted to like file their papers and I like
Yeah.
wanted to be the teacher. And so
Huh.
I just like always like did things with kids but I always but I always wanted that. And I have a podcast episode about it. It's like within the hundreds. I don't know. There's a lot of episodes. But I always had this entrepreneur side of me too. So I was the kid who loved setting up a garage sale and
Yeah.
making money, selling all my parents' things. Like, let me sell some stuff. I had a snow cone stand as a
Good deal.
kid.
Nice.
And then I also had jobs in college. Like, I was a golf cart girl.
Okay.
So I got to drive around and like sell things and an upsell. So I've had a lot of different sales type jobs, and I also enjoyed that as well. So kind of like when it came to if I stay in the classroom or not, or even building my business, it's really merging both because I really like teaching, but I also like creating and like
Being an entrepreneur.
talking.
You
Yeah, I
like
really love
business.
both. Yeah,
That's
so
fun.
I think
Yeah.
it's fun, but teaching's fun too. So, yeah, it's just something I always wanted to do, but also I've always wanted my own business. So it's kind of like I'm actually living my dream.
You're doing both. This
Yeah,
is
but
great.
yeah, so it's not the path I thought, like STEM per
But
se,
rarely
that
is
didn't
it, right? I
exist.
mean, think
Yeah,
about it. Like
it's
rarely is
true.
it. You find well, these things find you, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
if you are open to it and you're looking, you're kind
Yeah.
of like, an entrepreneurial mind is always kind of open, right? You're
Yes.
in fact, the hardest thing for a true entrepreneur to do is to say no to things.
Mm-hmm. It's
You
so
get it's
true.
hard
It's
because
very
everything's
hard.
everything's an opportunity in your mind, right?
Yeah.
You're a perpetual optimist and
Yes.
you have this why not? Why not? Why
Mm-hmm.
not? I don't know if that's been your experience. For me, it's
Yes.
totally my experience. I'm like, I got this
Yeah.
great idea. And my business partner's like, dude, we got enough great ideas going right now. We're good.
Yeah.
We can hold those great ideas for a while. We got to focus on these great ideas.
Yes. I'm
So
so that way, 100%. Which is also like, I mean, yeah, it's like has really good things, and you're like, you never run out of ideas. You're
yeah,
never a
no,
loss for
it's great.
ideas. There's always something to do, and it's fun.
Absolutely. So you knew at a young age that you wanted to teach. Did you know why? Was it just because you found it fascinating? Like some people will be like, because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives, but it
Um,
doesn't seem that that was necessarily the. I mean, I'm sure that's there, but it wasn't. You just liked the idea of
yeah.
teaching.
I just like teaching. I really like kids. I really just love to learn also,
Mhm.
which also goes to the entrepreneur side of
Yeah,
loving to
sure.
learn.
Yep.
But yeah, I just love to learn. I loved like how excited I would get. And I think I did like wanted kids to feel that way. Like
Mm,
I loved school and I wanted other kids to feel like that have that experience. Like when
yeah.
you are in my classroom, it's like your best day. Like no matter where you came from in the morning, I've taught in a lot of different environments and still do, and I just wanted like them to have the best time,
Yeah.
and the best experience because learning's fun. Like even if you're teaching reading, like it's still very fun. Like all the lessons are fun. It's not like I'm not an entertainer as a teacher, maybe a little bit, but like I just like love that, and I just wanted kids to have the same experience, and kind of probably how I got into STEM anyway, because it's like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Okay.
something I always knew. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. And I did.
Cool. And then you had the other itch to scratch was your entrepreneurial itch, and now you're putting them both together. I kind of feel the same
Yeah.
way where I am. I feel like business is what I was supposed to do. I
Yeah.
say this to somebody the other day. I said, it's an incredible thing. I said, to use a weird analogy, I said it's like I'm a round peg in a round hole.
Ah,
It's like I feel like people are like, oh, like, why are you shoving
yeah.
a square peg in a round hole? I said, well, I feel like I'm the round peg in the round hole. Like I'm doing
Hmm.
exactly what it was that I was born to
Yeah.
do. And it's a
Yeah.
really amazing feeling. It's super
It is.
empowering. Like you feel like invincible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that. And I think
I
that we
get
got to
that.
the heart of it. Like you wanted other kids to feel the same way about learning that you
Yeah.
did as a young age. So when you made the transition into entrepreneurship in the same space, right? So now you're just kind of,
Hmm.
okay, now the
Yeah.
students are the benefactors, but the teachers are really like what I'll call your target. That's who you're selling to or for. And
Yeah.
so how does that look? Like, what do you want them to feel from experiences with Naomi?
Yeah. So with that elementary STEM coach side, I I'm like you were saying, like that optimism part of being an entrepreneur. I'm very optimistic as well. And so I knew exactly how a teacher in a K through 5 STEM space, like in that kind of open-ended type of role,
Mhm.
how frustrating it can be when you don't have support. You're usually the only person in your building who is doing this role with maybe a budget, maybe not, maybe experience writing curriculum, maybe not. Like you just have a lot of things that you have to figure out on your own. And I know exactly how that is, which I like, but most teachers don't like that.
Yeah.
Like they're meant to be in that role, but it's also a lot. And so I knew with that side of things, the elementary STEM coach, that I wanted teachers to feel like it's fun. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of systems you need to make this be successful. But if you can set up these systems and create like these types of lessons, your students can be engaged, but also connecting to things in the real world. Because a big thing with mine too is like everything. when you're teaching in the classroom is, and you should be connected, it's purposeful. There is a reason why you're teaching all of those things connected to standards, but it can still be really fun. So I really want teachers to feel empowered in that type of role, and that they can do it, whether it's like going really, really fast or just taking it slow, and to feel like there's a community of teachers who feel the same way and they were in your shoes. I even talk about personal things on my podcast, like, here's what I'm dealing with right now, and you
Right.
might be too. Or even so many teachers message me through email or Instagram, and I will actually use their question as an episode. I'm like, this is what you want to learn
Why
about.
wouldn't
Let's
you?
talk about it.
Right. Exactly.
So I just want them to feel connected, because it can feel very isolating when you teach the whole school. Like, I taught 600 kids by myself,
Right.
and you have nobody to plan with. No one really understands what you're doing. Like, why do you have robots out? Like, why would you do that?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm, mhm.
it can feel, it's very fun, but very isolating. And I didn't want teachers to feel that way. But
Huh.
yeah, so it's really cool how it's grown this community, and people reach out to me in different ways. And I've met some people in person, which is
Isn't
crazy.
that cool when you do that?
Yes.
How fun is that? I'm going down to
Yeah.
one of our Drone Legends teachers
Oh.
in Charleston, in South Carolina. I'm going to go spend the day with her students
Oh, cool.
and hang out and see which, watch her run our program.
Yeah.
I love meeting, and I go to a ton of educational conferences.
Yeah.
So we exhibit. So I go to, like, all the big ones. I go to ISTE,
Oh,
but I also
were
do a
you
lot of,
in Denver?
I was. I did a workshop and I did a poster session.
Oh, I was there.
Where were you?
I was I was
You
running
didn't you
around.
didn't
I was
come you didn't
there.
come see my drone
I
poster session. I
know.
would have
I
remembered you.
didn't.
I'm just kidding.
I
But I'll be around. We'll
know.
hook up at others. Like,
Okay.
I'm going. So I'm actually going to a Boys and Girls Club meeting next week, and then
Mm,
in February it all starts again, right? Like, then
yeah.
we've got FETC. I am doing a
Mhm.
workshop.
Oh,
So I'm going to be co-presenting with one of our other educators who's out in Delaware. She and I are going to do a drone workshop at FETC in
cool.
Orlando, and then it's off to Beyond School Hours, where we'll do
Okay.
another workshop, and then NAA, and then there's all NSTA and a bunch of others. We're
Oh,
even
yeah.
doing the Library Association.
Oh,
We have
that's
we have a
cool.
book, but we have a novel
Yeah,
too.
that makes sense.
So it's fun. So I'll run into you now. Now I'll be looking for you.
Yeah,
Watch.
I know.
Now I'll see you everywhere,
Yes.
right? Because I'm
Yeah.
just like, there she is. Oh, look.
Yeah. Then we'll, like, yeah, it's crazy how, like, the
Totally.
connections happen
But I'm much
too.
taller in person.
Oh, are you? I'm like
Totally.
medium height.
I
I'm
gotta
not
tell
very.
you what, this is the best. Zoom is the great leveler for guys my height.
That's so
I'm like
funny.
5'7", right? So I'll meet people and they're either ginormous or they're like a lot smaller than I ever thought they were. Like, on screen, they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, I meet them and I'm like, "Hey, you're not so big after all."
That's funny.
Yeah. And then you meet some people and they're like, "Holy mackerel, you're big."
You're way taller.
Like, my business partner is like twice my size, and he'll come sometimes. He's in Texas. It's
Yeah.
literally like I could step, like, inside of him. Like, if he had a door in his back, I could just, like, fit inside like a robot suit.
It's like
And
Kevin Hart
oh,
and The Rock.
yeah, like that. And if he hears me, he's gonna laugh. But, like, people don't know that when we're on Zoom. We're all
No.
remote. My entire staff is remote, right? There's a few people that work close. But sometimes he'll come and he'll be sitting over at the seat over here, and we'll stand up for people and be like, people are just like, "Oh my God, that's great."
That's
I don't know how we went on
funny.
that tangent. But so I'm this answer now. Normally I have like 3 questions, and this middle
Yeah.
question, I know your answer,
Okay.
but because I kind of, the answer's got to be like kind of obvious. So
Oh,
typically I say, look, if I were starting out,
okay.
or if I'm thinking about
Mhm.
it, or maybe I'm even a little burned out and I need a little refresher, like, where do I go? What resources do I have? So see, we're just going to send them right to you
Oh,
because
yeah.
you've got a ton of stuff. I was on your website.
Yeah.
Wow, you got your own URL. It's great. You got NaomiMeredith.com.
Yes.
Good for you. That's a score.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do. Try to get your
I
full name as a
know.
URL with
Yes.
a .com. That's not
And
easy.
I only got that, I don't know, my full name, because I used to run it as Marvelous Miss Meredith, and then everyone thought Meredith was my first name.
All right.
So
Okay.
I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, I got my
Cool.
full
It's
name.
great. There's a
Yeah.
ton of great stuff up there. So tell
Yeah.
me, where do I go? I mean, do we talk to you? Are there other resources? Like, what was your inspiration when you were starting
Yeah, when I started out, so yeah, you guys will have all the links to everything, but when I was starting out, it might be actually kind of unconventional, but very current. I really like Facebook groups with STEM elementary teachers because
Sure.
there are some groups that are very, very active and teachers ask questions. So it's real world things that are happening at the time. So like what's happening for back to school night? What are people
Yeah,
doing? So I really appreciate Facebook groups that are very active because you can really see what's trending and also like good feedback
100%.
in real time. So that's a big place that I would look and kind of link to that too. I know like very unconventional but very helpful is also using social media. You can actually search on TikTok pretty well. Um,
There's a STEM feed.
yes, there is a STEM
There's a
feed.
full-on STEM feed in
Yes.
TikTok. You can add it to
Yes.
your menu and you can just go into the STEM
Yeah,
feed and
it's
you're now out
true.
of regular TikTok and in STEM TikTok. It's wild,
Yes.
right? Like that's the
Yes.
cool. Who thought to do that on TikTok?
No. And I'm like, well, STEM's a real thing. I tell the kids like
It
STEM is
is
like
real.
real.
It's
I didn't
everywhere.
make it up. It's real. So
Yeah.
those were like two really big things when I first got started. And
Okay.
then I was like, I really wanted a podcast. So I was looking for podcasts and there weren't a lot in elementary STEM. So now there
Mhm.
is. There
Yes,
are,
your
but
podcast will link to it all.
yeah.
You've got that.
Um,
Great
but
resources.
those are my two biggest things. And
Okay.
really, like most teachers getting into STEM typically have a background in education and already were teaching in the classroom. So, really rely on that
Yeah.
because you actually have a lot more skills than you know, like behavior management, how
Mm.
to write a lesson plan, how to read standards. So, I think some teachers get nervous. I don't know anything. Well, you do know some. But also too, like if you have, so with that, using that experience, typically as a classroom teacher, you get trainings from the company on a curriculum or at some point your school did. So if you have drones, like you have the drones, let's say you have all these things in your classroom, I highly recommend going to that company's website and seeing what types of trainings they have
Yeah.
available
Yeah.
because especially in STEM, maybe not so much in other things, but in STEM specifically, most of these companies have some sort of curriculum guide or they have
Yeah.
webinars
Oh, yeah.
or they have like you can connect with their product support team and they're happy to help you and give you the training that you need because they know people need that support. So don't feel shy about it. You're not born knowing how to work a robot. I
Or
wasn't.
a drone.
A drone or like
Right.
AI. You're not born
Yeah.
knowing it, but almost all of these companies, education-based companies specifically, have those resources. And if
Agree.
they don't, they want to hear from you so they can create them
That's
because
right.
they really
Agree.
do. Because some companies I work with, if we don't have it, we're making it, and they really want to help you. So the good companies do, but
So you've
yeah,
got Facebook groups with, it's
yeah.
funny. I see you're drinking. Are you the one with the Yeti cool thing
Oh,
there? Did you
yeah,
did you hear
it's
that? That's
water.
am I right with the story about that? So there's a group, think about Google. When you Google something, it gives you a bunch of sponsored stuff up top, right? Like we've all
Oh
got
yeah.
jaded to know that the first page is like, how reliable is it really? But you said something,
Hmm.
I think that Yeti cooler phenom started by somebody in this group called Better Than Google. And it's a Facebook group and it's like 4,000 moms, right? Or like it's a ton of moms. And they, instead of going to Google, they just ask other moms, like,
No
hey,
way.
what's the back to school backpack? What's the thing? What do you guys do with
That's
this happens?
funny.
Just like the Facebook groups you're talking about, it's
Yeah,
peer to peer, right? It's like
I
instead
love
of
that.
relying on Google sponsored, this is the backpack you want. No, it's like,
Yes.
hey, we try this. Like my kid rolled down hills
Yes.
and stuff with this thing. This is the bomb right here. That's how
Hmm.
I think if my memory serves me correctly, that's how that mug started, that Stanley mug, and it went wild in that
Oh,
group, and then everybody started doing it. So yeah, I
that
think you're
makes
right.
sense.
Facebook groups,
Yeah.
I think they're great. Um, social media, find those peer groups. I mean, I hear this over and over again. I do this now weekly, and it's find your groups, be around,
Yeah.
ask to get in a classroom. If you're on
Yeah.
the fence, I
It's
mean, we
true.
need teachers, right? And so if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence, is this something I really want to do? Then ask to go sit in on a
Oh, for
class.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
helpful, huh?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Like you'll find out pretty quick, is this what I want to do or not do?
Right.
Maybe go in multiple days because there are bad days,
Yeah, for
but
sure. How do you handle a
uh,
bad day? What's a bad day? It's a rough day.
when I don't get enough sleep, I
You
can
probably
handle
don't
most
sleep.
things.
With what you're juggling, do you sleep?
I do. I sleep very well.
Because you're
No.
exhausted. That's why, because you're busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm busy, but it's good. I can't sit still.
Awesome.
I don't know. Yeah, that's probably the worst. If I don't get enough sleep, I'm just not patient. And like things that normally wouldn't bother me, I'm like, we don't need to cry about this right now. Like, please stop. Um, yeah, I mean, every day is different.
Cool.
I don't
Yep.
know.
All right. Well, that's good. No. Listen, there's always good and there's always bad.
Yeah.
Positive, perpetual optimism. Speaking of optimism, so the the one thing I like to kind of wrap up with is, we talked about perpetual optimism and maybe just kind of unfounded optimism and unbridled optimism, which sometimes can be a problem. But I am optimistic, and I like to look at the world through more like rose-colored glasses than,
Yeah.
I mean, we can always, it's really easy to drop into the negative, right? So that's all around us. There's plenty of that. What are you optimistic about? Like in education, like you're there, you're working it, you're seeing the new stuff, you're writing curriculum, you're coaching teachers, and we just had a big election. And lot of things are going to change. Nobody knows what's really going to happen. It's really easy, I'm sure, for a lot of people right now to feel really down and kind of uncertain and
Mhm.
scared and angry and sad or whatever, the gamut, right? The 5 stages or whatever it is. What do you suggest? What are you feeling positive about? Like let's uplift some people right
I feel really positive, and I tell my students this because I'm working with robots currently with my kids, and they say things like, "Robots are taking over the world." I'm like, "No." Like, "Okay, let's chat
now.
about this."
Do they say this?
Yes.
What grade?
Yes.
What age group are we talking about?
5th grade. I'm like,
I
first of
love it.
all, robots and AI, that's a whole other thing. But I tell them like, because then we were talking about my YouTube. It was a whole thing the other day. But I tell them, like, what's really cool is that what we're learning and working on is really like, it's not taking over the world. Like, the things that you need to know is shifting. Like, yes, we need robots for different tasks. A drone is a type of robot. We actually were talking about drone shows. We
Oh
actually
yeah, the
were.
light shows. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
we
yeah.
were
They're cool.
yeah, we were talking about that. I'm like, it's not taking over anything. It's shifting how are you going to use your skills? Like with back to the robot example, a person doesn't need to vacuum every day. I hate vacuuming. I don't need a vacuum. I got a robot to do it. Now I can use my time for other things. So it
Right.
just like that is really encouraging me. I told him like you're living a really cool time where technology is shifting, where you get to use your skills and maybe you are coding and using computer programming in a different way. A lot of colleges are adding on computer programming as a language class. So maybe you're
Yeah.
not into Spanish. I'm horrible at it. My husband's a Spanish teacher.
Oh yeah.
I'm just not great at languages.
But
But
yeah,
like
coding is a language.
it
It's a
is a language.
language.
There's a lot of languages. So I'm like, you live in a really cool time where the things that you're going to be able to create and the jobs and possibilities are really shifting and really, really exciting and really fun and creative. There's a lot of creativity that is needed. Um, which again, I'm a creative person. And so just thinking about what I'm doing is really building up that creativity for and we always say that we don't know the jobs that are going to exist, but how that
Right.
we
Right.
can build up that creativity and that problem solving and that excitement where there are still a lot of positive things and a lot of cool things that you can do and be a part of. So just showing all those possibilities, kids get really excited about it. And it's really makes you happy too.
I think that's it. If you think about what you've just said there, so if you unpack that a little bit, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a wild time, right? Like it is. We were talking about my age, and I've seen black and white television.
You would never believe it, you guys.
I've
I don't
I've
think it's
seen
true.
black and white TV, and you look at what I've seen in my lifetime, right? It's like, whoa, what are they going to see? But it is a little
Yeah,
scary.
it
Automation,
is.
robotics,
Yeah.
AI, this and that. But I think what the key is to learn. See, I think the teacher's job is really great teachers inspire a love of learning.
Mhm.
They make learning interesting and fun
Yeah.
and engaging. And so like, if you can do that, if I think mission accomplished, if you can teach kids not how to ace tests,
Yeah.
but how to really enjoy the process of learning, like
Mm-hmm.
learning new things and being open to
Yeah.
knowing, you're an entrepreneur, you know this. There's an excitement of staring into the abyss of, I know nothing. Like I just did this
Mm-hmm.
book, right? And it's all
Mm-hmm.
jacked up. I just tried to do my first published book and it's a mess. I'm like, okay, it's
But
the
you did
margins are
it.
all, oh yeah, but I did it. And I learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
They made some mistakes and so did I, right? And so but I figured it out and I was like, wow, it's my first one. But when you learn something new, there's always this like, it's you're looking at the mountain and you're like, oh,
Yes.
but if you get kids to enjoy the process of picking up that one pebble at a time,
Yes.
not the mountain, but just stepping forward into it and just enjoying the journey, I think then you've set up a kid for life
Yes.
to
Oh, for
succeed.
sure. Totally. Like I tell them, I'm like, oh, well, this happened. Like it's just like really, it's exciting. Yeah, scary, but like think about the cool things that you might get to do. Like I actually my other podcast is for kids. Um,
It is.
and
And
so
what's that one?
yeah, it's called the STEM Career Quest podcast.
And
Um,
where do the kids find that? Just on a
on
regular
YouTube. Yeah, it's
on
on YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Cool.
so you can link your podcast to YouTube. So I also
Yes.
had to explain what a podcast is. They don't know, but that's okay. So
Yeah,
they can listen to
cool.
the first season and they can watch most of the first one. I'm the editor, so I need
Yeah,
to get
right.
on that. But I interview people who are working in STEM currently right now, and those jobs may or may not exist when they're an
Right.
adult, but it's getting them to think about how are people using their skills in the real world. And I also ask these people, you asked me, how did you get into this? And
Mm.
it always shifts, but every single person I talk to had something that they were passionate about that they are doing in their career. So like there's someone who works on space satellites. They always loved space as a kid.
That's
And
right.
now they're working at Lockheed and working as a team. So it's all the people had this little thing in them that now they still get to do it as adults. And it's just really cool to hear their story and for kids to hear that too. So
For
yeah.
sure. I mean, isn't that the way to do what you love? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know they say, careful about chase your dreams, but
Mm,
there's something that's in you. I think we all have our thing. And like, what I
yes.
tell adults when they're kind of searching around, because I made that mistake. I chased, sales dollars in industries
Yeah.
that I had no interest in. And I woke up one morning and was like, ugh,
Yeah.
God willing,
Yeah.
I hope there's 50 more of these, but they're not going to look like this. I was like, I can't handle this is not going to be what I do for the next half. And so
Mm-hmm.
you try to find, and my son's dealing with that right now. He's 19, about to turn 19. He's
Okay.
going through like, well, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, look, here's my advice. Do lots of things right now. Like if you don't
Yeah.
have this one thing, do lots of things. See
Yes.
what it is that you think you're good at or like, or you kind of have that.
Mm-hmm.
What was a guy I was listening to on a podcast, Sean Puri, he does My First Million. And he
Oh
was
yeah.
talking about find your bear on a unicycle. And what he meant was, if you look at a bear, you're like, yeah, it's a bear. It's cool. And then you go to a unicycle, you're like, yeah, it's a unicycle. It's pretty cool. But when you put a bear on a unicycle, it's like, well, that's really neat. That's different.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of has that intersection of their bear on a unicycle in his
Mm-hmm.
analogy. And I think that's true. And I think a lot of it is if you go back to your childhood and you think about, well, what was that thing that you used to
Yes.
lose yourself in? Remember when
Yes.
you were little and you'd be like, you'd look up and like hours had gone by and you're like,
Yes.
what were you doing? Because chances
Mm-hmm.
are that's it.
Yeah. And a
Or there's
lot of
something
these
in there.
people, yeah, all these people say that, like, well, I would do this. Like, this one engineer who I talked to, he's like, I loved playing with Legos. He's like, I still actually
Yeah, right.
do. And I love to build things and I get to build big things that go into space.
That's
Like,
great.
that's
So
so
cool.
cool.
It is cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
so the optimist in you is like, look, help the kids find their thing, and you're doing it. You're helping.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot in common.
Yeah.
I really look at what I do as helping teachers make their learning, their classrooms engaging. And to your
Mm-hmm.
point, there's a couple of things that go on there. There's one, they're very busy. And
Yes.
so even though many of them, and I talk to many teachers that say, I could do that. I just don't have the
Yes.
time. Like
No.
the nice thing about what you've done is you've packaged it all for me. And you've
Yes.
kind of like given me the
Exactly.
tools and the resources and I can run it.
hmm
And then there's the others that are just are thrown into something new
Yeah.
and don't have any background. And they're like, oh, I don't even know what I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
And
That is
then
so true.
and then you give them kind of tools and resources. So I think what you're doing is really cool.
Mhm.
I want everybody to follow you because your
Thanks.
content's engaging. It's
Mhm.
fun. Certainly we are over here. I'm gonna have to stitch or duet you or something like that. I'll have to.
I love your guys' TikTok. You guys have really funny
We're
videos.
trying. We're
I think
getting
they're
there.
good.
We're getting there. We're doing our thing. We're trying to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Understanding that we are in a. You have to kind of feel your way around and try to do some engaging stuff. But thank you.
I
You
think
know,
they're funny. Like there was one sound I actually saved from one of your videos. I'm like, oh, I like that sound. But that's the
we
fun
just
part about it. You just
yeah
you
yeah
make
we just
it and then
oh yeah we just go back and forth and steal each other's stuff. How's that?
yeah.
We'll just I'll just do your stuff. You can do mine, and then we'll do a
Yeah.
little duet or something. But this has
Yeah.
been fun. Um,
Yes.
any parting words for people out there listening? I mean, I know we're going to link to everything. The show notes in this one are going to be long because it will probably be shorter because you've done a nice job of like curating all your stuff into like
Oh,
one
good.
place. So
Oh, thank you.
usually the show notes are.
Yeah. So for all of you listening, like don't if you want to do all the things or you're just I don't know where to begin, don't get discouraged. Like take it step by step. There's always more you can do, no matter what. You always can feel like there's more, but just know what you're doing currently. You're doing a great job and just add in a little bit at a time. And if there's something that interests you, check it out. You don't have to check it all out all at once. I feel like I have to, and I have to I'm kind of telling you advice I need to tell myself currently right now. But just add on like one little thing and see how it goes. And then if you can handle it, add something else. So don't feel like you have to do it all at once. But what you're doing is amazing and you're listening to this podcast. So that's a great step already.
Yep,
So
yeah. Good.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, such a pleasure to actually get to finally meet you.
Yeah,
I
you
say in
too.
person now, but it still isn't.
Yep. Yeah.
But I will hunt you down at a conference. I'll find you.
Yes,
All right.
definitely. I know.
Are
I
you
need
going to be at FETC?
was it February?
January, I think, in
Oh,
Orlando.
I wish, but I will be still
You're
subbing.
still subbing. Well, I will find you.
Yeah.
I'm sure one day we will run into each other in one of these shows. In the
Yes.
meantime, we'll stay in touch here.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you. Well, thanks for
Nice to
having
see you.
me.
Thanks,
You too.
Naomi. Take care. Bye bye.